Good morning, gifted crafters. It's crafting time.
Worries on my mind, it's been a tough week. My life feels a void. There's something that I need. My supplies on the table, I grab a comfy seat. I need to craft to put my mind at ease. Crafting changed my life, it mends my soul. In my happy space, I'm in full control. It's crafting time, craft my troubles away. Give me a world of color to brighten up my day. Crafting videos on, searching what I can do. Sipping on my drink, feeling inspired and new. Crafting's good for the soul, it's so true. Bringing beauty into the world through. As I craft, my spirits start to climb. It's not just a pastime, it's a state of mind. It's more than just a hobby, it's a way of life. I express myself, everything is feeling just right. It changed my life, it mends my soul. In my happy space, I'm in control. It's crafting time, craft my troubles away. Give me a world of color to brighten up my day. Crafting videos on, searching what I can do. Sipping on my drink, feeling inspired and new.
Live from the Sunshine State in Miami, Florida, here is the Gifted Crafters Morning Show with Nancy.
Good time. Ooh, time to get our craft on. Ooh, time to have fun. Ooh, time to feel good.
Good morning, gifted crafters, and welcome back to the Gifted Crafters Morning Show. Good morning out there. Alrighty, we've got people from all over the place. Let's see where everybody is from. I see people were here bright and early today. Good morning. Good morning, all. Okay, I see people from Philadelphia. I see Maryland. I saw Miami, Florida. Hey, neighbor. Let's see, chat is going, but I missed the first part. We've got North Central Texas going on. There's my friends from Canada. Hey, how are you? All righty. Good morning. Yay. We got Louisiana here. Awesome. Okay, so we've got Northeast Ohio. Wonderful, wonderful. I hope you guys are having a great morning. Hey, from Lake Ridge, Virginia. Good morning, San Antonio, Texas. We've got Kerrville, Texas, and all kinds of places here. It's just amazing. It really blows my mind every morning when I see all people coming in from all over the place, just tuning in, and just, you know, the community of crafters is just an amazing community. And I have you guys to thank for that. So thank you so much. All right. Good morning. Good morning, Flo, Margaret, Faker, Robin. Gosh, Jenny, guys, good morning, Joyce, Leslie, Becky, good morning, everyone. Okay, so we've got a jam-packed show today because we've got a lot to do. And tomorrow is a very special day. And we're going to talk all about that in a few minutes. But first things first, right? We got to have our toast. So let's go over to that. So my name is Nancy with GiftsHQ. If you're tuning in for the first time, this is just a channel where we talk about everything crafting from all kinds of crafts, and we share all kinds of tips. So we have a great time, and we like to do this every morning. Awesome. Okay, so if you have a cup of whatever it is you have in the morning, go ahead and grab it. And if you don't have something, let me go ahead and pour something for you. Let's go ahead and have our little toast. So grab your cup of whatever you're having. You know, there's no judgment here. We can have coffee or water, tea, soda, whatever it is that you have. Go ahead and raise that glass and let's give ourselves a nice little toast so we can start our day. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little swivel myself. Okay, awesome. Boy, that feels good in the morning, huh? Okay, we've got our drinks. We're in our cozy spot, I hope. If you haven't gotten there yet, run on over to that because we're going to grab our little food truck. Oh, I'm sorry, food cart. We're doing our food cart today because we need our little exercise. Tomorrow's going to be a big day here. So let's get our little exercise when we can. Let's get it in. Let's roll that little food cart over and we're going to grab all our little snacks. Of course, we've got everything for you guys. Coffee, tea, donuts, everything that the food truck has, the food cart has. We just condense it. And remember, it's all calorie free and you can have anything that you want. So enjoy your coffee, your donuts, your muffin, whatever it is you like to have in the morning, the eggs, the bacon, we've got it all. And we've even got the healthy stuff like the kale and the carrots. So go ahead and grab all of your snacks, get yourself in your cozy spot so that we can begin. Alrighty, yay, good morning, guys. You've got blueberry muffins, yum. Awesome, okay. I think everyone is ready to go. I see the chat is settling in. Awesome, you're sending cups over to your friends as well. That's awesome, yay. We like to, you know, you can also bring snacks in, right? We can share all of your little recipes and stuff. So that's a lot of fun. If you ever want to share a recipe, let us know. Okay. Alrighty, let's see here. I've got a few things to announce. So tomorrow's a big day. We are going to have our 10,000 subscribers celebration. And with that, we're going to be doing our giveaway. Yay! Yes, our giveaway. It's going to be tons and tons of fun, and you don't want to miss out. So there's a few things that you have to do in order to participate. First of all, you've got to be a subscriber. So if you haven't subscribed, I really encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button today. You're going to be able to chat if you are a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, you're not going to be able to chat and you're not going to be able to be part of the giveaway. And we really want you to do that. You also really need to fill out the form. And guys, we're doing this for safety. As you'll be surprised anytime someone out there that does YouTube says that they're doing a giveaway, people come out of the woodworks. And you've got all kinds of scammers that will show up just because it says that you're doing a giveaway. And so to make this really secure, that's why we're having you guys fill out the forms. And, you know, we do it for safety reasons. We really want to kind of do the best we can to kind of avoid all those scammers. So please, please, please fill out the form. It's a short form. Mr. H worked really hard on it and he put the form together for us, and he really would like to make sure that we keep those scammers away and keep us safe. So that form is just another way to keep us safe here, and we can do the giveaways and avoid all those scammers. So please, please, please fill out the form if you haven't. Link is below. Fill out that form, and I think will you be able to put it in the chat as well? So yeah, we're going to put it in the chat as well, so that you guys have it. It's a really short form. We just want to validate, you know, we know who we're dealing with and where things need to go, because then once you post it out there, the scammers come in and they like to do all kinds of stuff. So we're doing this for us. I want to make sure that the people who help to support me are the ones that I'm going to be able to give back to, not a bunch of scammers that are out there. So please, please, please fill out the form. Okay. So that's going to be tomorrow. The majority of the prizes are going to be for US, but we are going to have one for international, because we've got a few people from international. At least that's what YouTube tells us, right? And we see some people here on the chat. They tell us that they come in from international as well, and I want to reward them as well. So we will have the one for them. Let's see. And I think that's it. I mean, guys, we've been working really hard on graphics, designs, planning. A lot of things go into it. So we've been really working off a lot of burning some hours here, some really late hours, to be able to put this together. And I really hope you guys have a great time tomorrow. We're really trying to make it a lot of fun, and I think we're going to have a great, great time. Let's see. I see everyone in the chat is talking about it. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. You guys are going to have a great time. And we're really, really trying to really plan anything, make things fun, make it very interactive. And no, it's not $10,000. It's a 10,000 milestone. So yeah, I figured, you know, somebody may come back with that. But no, I wish I could give away $10,000. But yeah, I could use $10,000. But no, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're trying to make things, the prizes to be, you know, something you guys can really use. You know, I don't have big money maker things or sponsors or anything like that. I'm just trying to, using my own money, and you know, we're trying to really bring you guys some little gifts of a thank you type of thing for really getting us there, because I'm really grateful for that. So okay, enough about that. Yay, yeah, we're excited too, Lisa. We are excited. Yeah, 10,000 tips and tricks. Yeah, alrighty. Okay, so let's move on, because we've got a few things that I want to cover today. And if you're tuning in for the first time this week, we are working on an autumn skies table runner, and the finished size is 28 by 42. So this is what the little table runner looks like. I think it's adorable. It's very similar to a paper piecing pattern that's called the Woven Star that we worked on. And I wanted to kind of show you guys, I did complete the first block. And so here it is. Ta-da! We do have the first block here, and it was a lot of fun. I have a couple comments on the comparison. So we wanted to compare this piecing method with the paper piecing method. And there's a few things on here that I think could have been a little easier, in terms like if you're doing this, oops, it's on this side. If you're doing this with a paper piecing pattern, then it's going to be a lot easier than it is if you're doing it with the regular piecing method like this. So this was one that we were able to do, and I do have a couple of other pieces. We started it off yesterday, but we'll kind of go through the steps in a minute. You know what? Let us first do our crafting news so we can get this going. I want to get those stories out to you. And then we're going to get into all of this. And I have quite a few things that I want to touch upon on this. So let's quickly go over to our crafting news so we can get that over to you. I've got 2 stories here. One of them is something special that's happening in the Ohio area. And I know we have a couple people from Ohio. So in Wayne County, Ohio, there's a local sewing club, and it's called the Wayne County Stitchers. And it's stitching up some pretty big plans. It's got a National Sewing Month this September. And it's a lively group of crafters that meet every month, and they're inviting members to share some hand-sewn projects that are to be showcased at the Wayne County Public Library, glass display cases all month long. So if you're nearby and you want your work to be featured, you can just stop by and bring it over to them at their meeting on August the 12th. At 10 a.m. at the Church of the Cross, and that's where they'll be collecting all of those items. Now, this isn't just a club. They also keep things fun and fresh, and they have monthly sewing challenges. And August, the theme for August is apples. The theme for September will be leaves. In October, it's pumpkins, turkeys, or Halloween. In November, it'll be Christmas trees and more. And their big Christmas challenge is to create anything with a snowman. And then the members will be able to vote in December, and there's a whole bunch of prizes. So it sounds like a really fun, lively little group that does some really fun challenges. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, the handmade treasures that they make are not just for fun. They also share them with local nursing homes, and they bring a little cheer to some others. And if you love those little quirky details, in July, they had the picnic on the patio. That was a meeting that featured food-themed pincushion shaped like a wheel of cheese. Yeah, that's kind of weird, right? But they have these little quirky things that they do. And so their past creations included things like a slice of cheesecake on a tiny cheeseburger. And some of these creative works are going to be part of that display in September. So that's pretty cool. So if you're able to see the display, or if you have a handmade item that you want to bring in, you can do that as well, because that's pretty cool if you're in that area. Okay, next area we have Virginia, West Virginia. This weekend there's a special treat at the Cedar Lakes Conference Center in Ripley. On Saturday, August the 9th from 11 to 2, the grounds will kind of change and also have the second annual outdoor quilt show. It's going to be their second one, and it's completely free to attend, guys. Now, this is hosted by the West Virginia Modern Quilt Guild, and it's not just going to be a typical quilt show. They're going to have pictures of dozens of beautiful handmade quilts that's going to be gently swaying on the clothesline, and it's going to be just kind of hung outside, and neighbors are going to be able to go around and admire each other's work. They're also going to have something special going on. They have the quilts are not going to be locked behind glass, so they're going to be they're allowing people to share them, go right up to them, because usually they don't want people to touch them a lot. So they're going to allow you to really get up and close to be able to see the quilts, and not just like behind glasses and things. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then they're going to have a fun challenge that's called the Threads of Deception. The guild members will have to create an 18-inch quilt block that's using a surprise color that they're going to receive in the mail. And I guess it's going to be pretty creative. They're pretty clever the way they're doing this. They're making this really a surprise. They're going to receive that in the mail, and then they have to create that 18-inch box. So we're going to see what everybody comes up with. That's going to be pretty creative. So that's going to be a lot of fun. There's not going to be any judging or anything, no pressure like that. It's going to be just great conversation, just to be able to see the creativity from everyone. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay. Let's see, did I miss anything else? We talked about our reminder, subscribing, completing the form. One thing Mr. H wanted me to let you know that during the live stream, hashtag GiftsHQ will be, let me see, will be in the chat, and participants must be present on the live stream during the drawing. Let's see. Let me see if I missed anything here. Yeah, we're going to have, we pretty much covered everything here. I think we've already gone through that list. So we're good. We've got the subscriber, you've got the form, and you must be present to win. So we're good with that. Okay, I think we can move on here. Alrighty, let's get to it because we've got a lot to cover. So again, we're working on this particular pattern, and this is the woven star that you end up with. Now, you will have to make 15 of these, so it'll be a total of 15 that you're making. And we've been using the folded corner clipper ruler. And with that, what we've done is we went ahead and we took 2 of the squares, and all of the cutting directions and everything is on the pattern. And then I put them right sides together. I put them underneath the ruler, and we kind of went through these yesterday on what to look for when you're doing this, making sure that all 4 sides are completely aligned. I'm using my rotary cutter to then come in and do the cut. Now, whoop, moves before I cut. There we go. And so we're going to have all of these little scraps, and I've got tons of these little scraps that I'm just pulling together in a pile. Once we have that, we're taking that over to our sewing machine. And we talked about how we can put things in our sewing machine to help us achieve that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And so we have our tape, we have a magnetic seam guide here to help us as well. Or, you know, if you're good with just going at it without these things and you're pretty confident on hitting that 1/4 inch seam, then go ahead and do it. I mean, worst things that can happen is that you have to kind of grab your seam ripper and, you know, kind of undo it. So we're fine with that. Just be very patient on this piece, and then go ahead and lower your presser foot and bring down your needle. And I'm just going to go ahead and sew that. And I'm going to try to really not go so fast. One thing that, and I know it happens to me a lot, is when I get towards the very end, because I'm not holding on to the fabric anymore because it's already under the foot, sometimes I tend to kind of move it this way a little bit. And so what ends up happening, and I'm already done, so let me take it off, but what ends up happening, at least to me a lot of the times, is because I'm already turning it on this very edge here on the end, I end up getting under the 1/4 inch. And let's see, did I cut my threads? Yeah, I did. I can kind of see here, if I line this up here, you can see I'm right at the 1/4 inch mark right here. Okay. And then what happens is I end up kind of moving the fabric right when it's towards the very end. And so my stitch here on the end will sometimes come in a little bit. And I get a little bit less than a 1/4 inch because I'm kind of moving my fabric. And I have that really bad habit. So I'm trying to be really mindful of that and making sure that even though you have the last piece of the fabric underneath the foot and you're still kind of sewing it, try not to move your fabric too much ahead of time. Allow the fabric to really complete the sewing and come out on the other end before you start grabbing it to take it off. So I did notice that I do that a lot, and it's because I'm usually like rushing and I'm trying to like, you know, just rush through it. But here is, trying to open it up and finger press this. We've got our, can you guys see that? Yeah, so we've got our little square here. And so now I'm going to take it over. And one thing I did add, I brought over my little, sorry, hold on a second. Oh, there it is. I brought over my little wooden tailor clapper. And this is just a little tailor clapper that's for your seams. And so it's really nice because it's got that little bar right here. And so I'm able to kind of lay my little square, and I want to make sure that my seams is going the right way. So I want my seam to be on the darker side. Okay, let me move this over so you guys can see. And so because I want it on my darker side, I'm going to hand press it this way, and then I'm going to kind of just lay it here. And because this is so tiny, sometimes it is a little difficult to be able to kind of iron on it. So I'm going to lay it here, and I'm going to lay down my seam and kind of just pull onto the side so I get a nice clean press here in the middle. So it allows the heat to really penetrate on the seam area, which is really where the bulk is, to allow it to lay nice and flat. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Hold on this to the side and then just grab my little iron. Ideally, I should have brought out my little mini iron, but I'm just going to go ahead and iron on that seam. And it really lays it. It helps to really lay it flat. So now I'll just go over to my little regular little ironing board. And I'll just lay it flat here. So I've already ironed the seam. The seam is really laying down nice and flat. So now I can just give a quick little press on the rest, and then I'll just put my other clapper to kind of lay it nice and flat, and I give it a little bit of pressure. So that's what really makes it really flat and crisp. So you could see here how flat that is, right? It just really helps you with that bulk in that middle area. And you can do that with all kinds of projects where you're dealing with the seam allowances and you want them to be really nice and flat. I like to really use the little bar because this really allows the heat to get into that seam and flatten it out for you. And then the clapper themselves, I mean, you could use this as a clapper as well, right? You could just put it on top. It's got that wooden base. So this, you know, you don't have to have two separate ones. I just had this one out from before. So, you know, but this is a nice way to really flatten that out. And so, of course, we're going to do, you got to do 4 of these. And so because we need 4 of these, you also need to do your longer one. So we did the little 2-inch square yesterday. And so today we have this longer piece here, and you're going to again do the same thing. You're going to take your 2-inch square, this is your background square that you're using, along with your other fabric. And normally we would draw the line and then do it that way, but we're going to be using the little ruler. So I'll go ahead and use the ruler. And on this one, it's a little bit different because the other one was a 2-inch squares. This one is actually 3.5. So I'm lining it up on the 3.5-inch mark, and I'm making sure that I'm nice and squared on both sides and also on that little top area. So let's see here. Looks like that we are good. And then I'm just going to take this, grab my rotary cutter, downward pressure, and then go ahead and snip that piece off. And so we have that little piece that comes off that goes into our little scrap pile. And that's what we have left. So now I'm going to take this, trying not to move it, bring that over to the sewing machine here. And then let's go ahead and sew that one in place. Okay. Here we are. And this one's a little bit bigger piece, so I have a little bit of fabric to kind of hold on to as it finishes it up. But when you're working on that 2-inch square, it's really difficult because the piece is just so small. It's really difficult to do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm finger pressing this. And we've got our nice square here. Okay, and so we've maintained that shape. And so now we're going to go ahead and press it. So again, I'm going to use this little clapper to get my seam nice and flat. And you're just going to lay that on here. Here we go. Nice flat seam, exactly where I want it to go. Okay, and so now let me just show you on the other camera. I keep forgetting about this camera. Let's see, where are we? Here we go. So nice and flat. You can see the seam here. Okay. There we go. All right, so now we've got this piece in place. We're going to grab, and this is kind of the order that you're doing. I have to have the pattern in front of me because I forget which way it goes. So you've got your big piece with the background fabric facing over to the right, and then you have the small pieces with the background fabric facing to the left, and the position is really important here. And then you're going to grab your another piece of a background fabric and you're going to put that together, and that is going to be the tail or one tail of your star. So this is this block right here. Okay, now they're all going to be the same, so you'll have to position them exactly like this in order to achieve that look. Last night I was kind of tired and I ended up sewing it this way, which was not correct. So I ended up having to undo it. So yeah, make sure that when you are pulling this together that you're orienting it the correct way. So background fabric to the right, and then on the left side, you have the background fabric square with the background fabric on top as well. And so the first thing you want to do on here is we want to go ahead and do right sides together, and we're going to sew that across. And then once we have this as one piece, then we're going to go ahead and sew it and join it to this one. And that's going to give you a complete square that looks like this. And so let's bring that over to the camera. And so you'll see here how you've sewn this together here and you've sewn this together here. So that is one of your little star points here. And you can see that put together there. There we go. Okay, so this would lay like right on top here. Let me get my rotary cutter out of the way. There we go. So this is what you'll have to do, and you'll have to make 4 of these. So once you have all 4 of them, then you need to kind of join them together. Okay, so you'll be having all 4 sides here. And what you want to look at too, and you don't have to do it this way, but this is kind of how I organized my fabrics, where you can do a really scrappy look where all 4 of these are different and the points are all different. So if you want a real scrappy look, you could do that. Or you can follow the way the pattern is kind of telling you, and you can see it in the little diagram here, where they've got the 2 inner points here and here, both the same fabric, and then the outer points are all the same fabric. So you can do it that way, or you can just change it up and just do it completely scrappy and just have different different scraps of fabric all over the place here. So if you want it to be a little bit more of an organized type of look, then you are putting the 2 fabrics together here, here, and then the 4 points here. So those are the little squares, and then you have the larger pieces here. And so this is the 2 fabric. These are the 2 fabrics that I picked for this one. And so eventually, when we put this one together, this will end up being here somewhere. All right. See how that's kind of coming together with the 2 fabrics? And actually, I picked the wrong one here. I'll have to find it. It's somewhere on this design board. But that's how you're going to put that star together here. Okay. And so we do a couple of those, and then with this clapper, I end up opening the seam and flattening it. So it just makes it a little bit easier for me to do that when I'm then, you know, not so much for this step. I mean, it's great to have it flat for this step, but when you are joining the entire star together, that's when you really want to have those flat seams, because now you're going to be bumping things up against each other. I'll show you that in a second right there. Let's say I was putting these 2 together. So if I'm bumping these 2 up together and I have my seams nice and flat, I'm able to kind of pull these and bump them up against each other here, and then just making sure that I'm hitting that seam. Now I can't see what I'm doing from this side, but I'm thinking this is together here. Okay. But this is where you want to make sure that that stays nice and together. And then this is where you'll now take your fork pins, and you'll use your fork pins to kind of hold that in place for you as you go ahead and do that seam, right? So you want to take out those fork pins, and the way you want to use your fork pins is you want to make sure that you are capturing a piece of fabric on both sides. So let's go back over here so I can show you what I mean. Let me find the side. Here it is. So we've got our 2 seams and our seam allowances, you know, one going to the right and one going to the left. And so we'll bump those 2 up against each other. And there is my seam line. Oops, there we go. Let me try to fold it this way. There's my seam line that I'm trying to line up, right? Okay, it's this line right here. And so when I put my fork pin, I want to grab one piece of fabric. Here's the line. I want to grab one piece of fabric on this side and one piece of fabric on this side, and put that fork pin in place right there, because I don't want it to shift at all. And by grabbing one piece of fabric on each side, it's really going to hold it down in place. So that's what's going to really help me to keep that together and not move until I get to that point on my sewing machine. Right, so that'll really hold it down into place. So I wanted to kind of show you that, because that's where, and all of these little things that I'm pointing out is where a lot of the errors can happen. Because if you're using this ruler, and you have measured and checked all of your checkpoints, you are always going to come out with an accurate piece. And where the errors can occur is, one, from your sewing machine, because you didn't do an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we've gotten some things on tools and things that we can use for that to help us there. And then when you're ironing it, you want to make sure that these are nice and flat. Make sure your seams are flat, and making sure that you can anchor them together when you're starting to piece this together, right? So by you having those seams nice and flat, it's really going to help you to bump these up and be able to really accurately go in and sew those together. Use your pins. Your pins are going to help you so that the fabric doesn't shift. Remember that on the sewing machine, the feet dogs are pulling the fabric. And so that bottom pull of the fabric can separate you from your top fabric. If you think about how the feet dogs are working and how it's pulling the fabric in, that little pull that it does can get you misaligned. And it can easily allow your fabric to shift. And although you took all the precautions and you think that, you know, it's right on and it's going to sew perfectly, when you get to your sewing machine and the feet dogs move the fabric here, it's going to move that bottom piece and you're not even going to see it. Like, it is pulling this fabric. So unless you are using a walking foot that will pull both the top and bottom fabrics together, these feet dogs are only pulling this bottom fabric, so you can easily get misaligned. And if you don't pin it properly, then this is going to slide on you, and you may have, it just may be a slight little pull, but it'll be good enough that it'll throw you maybe about 1/8 of an inch off of your seam. And so you'll be off just a tad like that. And you don't want to be off like that, right? You want to be spot on to your seam. So making sure that not only are you checking all your pieces, you're doing that accurate 1/4 inch seam, you want to make sure that the feed dogs are not going to be pulling on that bottom fabric and leaving your top fabric alone, right? So if you do the pinning with the fork pins, that's what's really going to help, because you're pinning together that bottom piece and the top piece right on that seam. So it is not going to move anywhere. And I like to leave my pins on up until the very point where it's about to go underneath the foot here. That's when I'll remove it. I won't remove it prior to that, because if I do, I'll have a greater chance of this fabric slipping on me and moving off of that seam. So lots of things that you can do to help to prevent that. Of course, lots of patience as well. And if it doesn't come out right, you go back to your little seam ripper, right? The seam ripper is always there for you to help you kind of undo and redo. And as much as you don't like to undo and redo, that's what really helps you to learn and get better and better. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to hit that seam. So always check those things, because that really helps for you to be able to, hit each one of those points. So let's do a couple more. Let me move some of these out of the way. Let's see here. Now you can do this assembly style. So if you don't want to have to do each one of these and stop and pull these together, you can just go assembly style and sew all of these together and sew up the small squares together and then assemble them that way as well. Whatever you're more comfortable with. We went ahead and did this one. Let's see, we've got our 2 squares here. So we're pretty much ready to do one block here, but we've got to do several. So let's go ahead and do the second one. I'll pull this one together and I'll pull this over to the side. We've got our blocks here. So you want to lay everything out. And you're going to need one more background fabric to bump up here. So this is everything you're going to need to make that one little tail of your star here. Okay. All right. So let's put this together. Let's bring this over to the sewing machine and sew this up real quick. Now, these things, these pointers that I'm letting you know about is very different from paper piecing, right? When you're doing the paper piecing part, your paper piecing, you don't really have to worry too much about the pinning or anything like that because you're sewing it on the paper. And so the feed dogs are pulling the paper. And so your fabric is on top and you can visually see where it was placed, right? And so the lines on the paper kind of help you do it a little bit easier. So far I am finding that the paper piecing is a little bit easier than just piecing it here. But you know, that's what I'm seeing so far. So let me go ahead real quick. I got to go to this ruler and we've got to make our cut. So I'm going to line this up. Get this going here. There we go. More for my little scrap pile. And then, of course, this is what we'll be sewing. And I'll do this one more for you guys, and then we're going to look at our paper piecing. Okay. All right, here we go. There we are. Okay. Looks great. Okay. So let me show you guys the paper piecing. I've got that here on the side. And I'm going to show you the paper piecing part of it, of the woven star and all of the cuts that we did on this one. So if you recall, and if you haven't followed this along, we were working on a foundation paper piecing pattern that is a woven star. Very similar to, where did my star go? The star that we're doing now. Now this one is completely scrappy. Okay, and this one's a little bit more formal because we do have a little bit more of an organization in terms of the fabric placement. This one is a lot more scrappy. You can see that we have really done it, you know, slightly different, but it is pretty much the same. And let me take out one of my finished ones. I forgot to take that one out. Let me just grab one of those so you guys can have a good comparison. Just grab a couple there. Okay. And so these are the two blocks side by side. Okay. Very, very similar. One is a little more organized fabric and this one's more scrappy. This one's skinnier here on the sides, right? And this one's a little fatter here. So we've got a fat one and a skinny one here. And so let's look at these a little closer here because you can see, whoops, that's just an extra one. You can see where the difficulties can be on here, and I'll just use my little pencil. So when you're working on this star and you're piecing it together, you're piecing it into these 4 squares here. You've got that larger piece and the smaller 2-inch squares that you're using, along with this half square triangle, right? And then you're having to line this up across, right, with this one, and then lining it up with the 2 on the bottom. So where your biggest difficulties will be first making sure that we've got this all aligned with the ruler. So the ruler's helping us be very accurate here. Sewing will be a big piece that you'll have to look at as to where your errors can occur, and then lining it up. And that's why it's important that the seams are lined up correctly, because when you're lining it up, you want to make sure you're hitting your points, right? And then that's where your difficulties lie on the pieced version. Where on the paper piecing, for the paper piecing, you've got this paper that you're sewing on, right? You've got more different pieces of fabric, so you do have to cut out different pieces of fabric. We've got 5 pieces of fabric here versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side, but it's only sewn together in 1, 2 places and then joining the whole thing. Here you are sewing all 5 places, but it's on the paper and you're lining it up right on the line, and then you're using your add-a-quarter ruler. So it's a lot less room for error on this side because of the paper. It's stabilizing your fabric, and so because of that, it's not allowing the fabric to shift any. Where it can be shifted on the machine if you're not holding it right, or it tends to slip on you on the machine, right? So you've got that error that can happen here that can't happen on the paper piece. I mean, it could, but most likely it's not going to, because it is sewing on paper, which has no stretch whatsoever, right? On here, you have a lot of stretch that can happen. Even though we starched it, you still have a lot of stretch that can occur on the fabric. So it's a little bit slippery on this one than it is on the paper piecing one. Now, the paper piecing is also going to have the same type of instructions where you'll have to then take your little quarter pieces, and this will come out like this, right? You're going to have to assemble your star. And so by assembling your star, you're still going to have to line things up. And you'll notice that on the paper piecing, they put little dots on here. Those are to help you line up. Right? You're going to use these dots to kind of overlap and pin it, and then go to your sewing machine and be able to line up your dots so that you can achieve that little point on the end here. So all of these are little things that are in place to help you move along with the paper piecing. It can get a little difficult when you get to this step, because you do have to line the dots up. And we've talked about using pins and how you can achieve that with your paper piecing. So you can use the instructions from the paper piecing that it comes with, but when you're assembling it, use those little dots and make sure that you're lining them up, and take the time to do that because they can shift on you. So which one is a little bit easier? Is it the paper piecing or is it the piecing? I think they both have their challenges. I think that the paper piecing pattern is a little bit just slightly beginner friendly more than your regular piecing, because the paper allows you to have that stability where the fabric is not moving so much. Where for the piecing, even though you've starched it, right, then, yes, Cindy, they do both finish the same size, 6.5 inch, I believe, or was it 6 inch? Hold on, let me just make sure. Nope, they both finished the same size, 6 inches. I believe it's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5. Sorry, 6.5 inches. It's this one. Let's see. It makes a 6. It's a 6-inch block when you're done assembling the whole thing together. Individually, the blocks are 6.5 inches because you need that extra 1/4 inch on each side, because after you've done with the block, you then have to assemble it, and that's going to eat another 1/4 inch here and 1/4 inch here. So it ends up completely finished at 6 inches, but just the block itself, standalone, is 6.5 inches. Okay. And the same is true for this one here. It is 6.5 inches with the block finished, but when you assemble this together, the block will shrink to 6 inches. Okay, so definitely you've got your differences here. You know, you've got, is paper piecing easier than regular piecing? I think it is in a sense, because again, the paper helps you stabilize it together and keeps the fabric from shifting as much. This is really the biggest issue a lot of piecers have, is if the fabric is not starched well, you know, it can slip on you. But if you are experienced, and the more experienced you are, you know, you're able to hit those points just spot on every single time. The starch really helps you kind of mimic that paper feel. And so it will make the fabric stiffer so it doesn't shift as much, allowing you the better opportunity to be able to hit all of your points here. Now, other things that I can tell you that are a little bit different, like for the paper piecing, once you're done with your sewing of your block, you do have to remove the paper. So that's like an extra step that you do have to take to remove the papers, because they will be stuck back here. And some people just find that a little annoying to have to take the papers off. But if you use the correct seam, the width that you use on your machine, I used 1.4, I believe it is. And that allows me to have a very, very tight seam here, and that'll allow me to kind of do that perforation so that the paper will come off very smoothly. Now, problem with that occurs that if, when you're assembling the block together, if you're using that kind of a seam allowance, what's going to happen is if you have to undo the seam with your seam ripper, it's very, very tight. And so you'll have to have pack a little patience with you, because in order to undo it, you know, because you're using a 1.4 stitch length, you know, it's going to be very tight. And so you do have to try to be very patient in taking it apart in case you made a mistake and you have to redo it. So that's a little bit of a pain, where as if I'm piecing it, I don't have to have such a tight seam. And so if I make a mistake and I need to undo it, I can easily get my seam ripper and go ahead and take it apart. Most of the time people use between 2.5 or 3 of stitch length on here. So seam, the length is different. This uses the paper, which then has to be removed, so it adds an extra step, but it provides the stabilization that you need for the fabric to avoid it from shifting. Where this one doesn't use paper, it does have starch on there. I did starch both of them, but it allows this to move a little bit more, and so you'll have to be a little careful from the fabric shifting on you just a bit. Quilting with Harriet says use a light box when paper piecing to check the position of the paper. Yes, I have the cutter pillar light box, but you can use any light box, and you can align this to make sure that you're hitting your points. It really helps you out to really align everything well before you bring that over to your sewing machine. But that is another tool that you can use if you don't have a light box. You just kind of hold it up to the light. That kind of helps as well. Using the fork pins is a really big plus. I found the fork pins to be very helpful on both ends, both the paper piecing as well as just regular piecing. So that was another plus. Let me just grab my notes. Let me see if I had anything else. The fabric shifting, the pins, the paper. Yeah, I think we've covered them all. So I think that's everything that I had in terms of comparison here. I do think the paper piecing pattern is a little bit easier, but just slightly easier. But they both have their challenges. You kind of pick your own. So now we are running really low on time. Let's just switch over to our inspirational quote of the day, because I want to get that into you guys. Okay, so today's quote of the day is, sometimes the greatest treasures aren't finished quilts, but the friends made during the process. And that is a message just for you guys. And I really appreciate all the support that you guys give. And I love the community that we have out here. So again, hate to repeat it, but I want to repeat it one more time. Please, please, please do not forget to fill out that form so that you can be part of our giveaway tomorrow. We're going to have tons of fun, and I hope to see you there. And we're really just going to have a great time. I think you guys are going to love it. We've been working pretty hard on this one. So, alrighty. Well, thank you guys again for joining. I think that's everything that I have for you guys today. I'm going to continue working on this and finish this up, so I'll keep you updated on my updates here. We've got all kinds of other YouTubers out there, and I want us to go ahead and give support to them as well. So let's head over to Becky with Power Tools with Thread and see what fun stuff she's got lined up for us today. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.
So long for now, so long. Glad you stayed a while. Hope you liked my crafting style. Hope I left you with a smile. By now, keep your mind and space clutter-free. Hope your day is bright as can be. So long, my friends, till we craft once again. Bye now, stay crafting. See you tomorrow. So long, my friends, till we craft once again.